Wow. First, I have to say to my brother Tulio, to my friend Tulio, that was the most beautiful tribute to healthcare workers, to essential workers, to our COVID heroes. And it was probably the most authentic tribute anybody could have given. Because of your experience, helping your members get through tragedy and loss. And I can tell you every single one of us, and I can see it in the room right there, are wiping their tears because we feel the loss of Angela with you. This pandemic has changed lives. It has changed lives. But you're right, we're a union family, and we're probably the best and closest of all of them out there. I'm incredibly proud of the work that everybody does here. And I just want to thank Tulio for coming up and having the courage to say what you did when I know that your heart is hurting. I also want to recognize the incredible youngish woman who just acknowledged me up here, our Ontario Regional Council Chair. She's our first young Black woman to take the chair of the Ontario Regional Council. I am incredibly proud of that. She brings the voice of racialized workers, telco workers, Ontario's workers. She had her first ORC and she nailed it. So good morning, friends, delegates, guests, bonjour. It is always, always an honor and privilege for me to be up here to give you a report. Well, I'll say a glimpse into some of the incredible work that carries out in this region. After 2 long years apart, I can't tell you how good it feels to be here with you. I don't know if many of you realize, but for me and for many others, it's a true healing to be here among you. Especially after this long separation and this very long, tough year. We needed to be together. This is what our union was about. All of us, brilliant minds, committed hearts, incredible energy, and a love for life and one another. And finally, we get to see that in this room. On the mics, in the hallways, we are finally back again, and I see nothing much has changed. We're burning up the mics, sharing our opinions, shaping each discussion one thoughtful comment at a time. Convention barely could get started, and Steve Wanless was up here busting down walls. And the union rep is in our DNA. It feels great to see that. We tackled some important issues yesterday. Issues that you sent in to discuss and debate. Issues that you did not send in to discuss and debate, but this is our convention, and we have important things to talk about. I encourage all delegates to get to the mics, to share your views with others, and define the path forward for this union on every resolution, on every constitutional amendment, every piece of work that we are collectively engaged in. I saw this yesterday, and now I'm speaking to all the first-time delegates in the convention. Raise your hand if this is your first convention. Welcome. This is what a rank-and-file structure is all about. It is your convention, your union. We need to hear from you. Yesterday, as I walked through the lobby of the convention center, the energy was absolutely incredible. Everyone was gathered together, socializing after such a long period of separation. Laughter and chatter filled the air. And a colleague of mine turned to me and said, "This is so good for my soul. I just need to be here." That statement could not be any truer. And you know this, we were notorious for gatherings and events, even overkill, I'll say. We had 2, sometimes 3 events booked on the same weekend throughout the entire year. Just a couple of weeks ago at the Delta Hotel in Toronto, in 1 week, we had DHL and Loomis bargaining in one room, Bell Clerical bargaining in another room, retirees meeting in a third room, and 8 casinos gathered together to coordinate deadline bargaining all at the same time. I think we owned the Delta Hotel there. So when we talk about missing the union, I think this is what we were all hurting for the most, to be together, to work together, to build together. This has been a tough year for us. There's no doubt about that. There have been different degrees of difficulty felt by many, and it's healthy to acknowledge that. For some, it was watching from afar, reading stories about their union in the media. For others, it was living tragic events in the present and their memory, and we have all struggled with it. Talking about our struggles in a room of trade unionists, those with a desire to support and assist will always help us move forward, and it's going to be an incredible healing for us. I know as convention approached, many delegates felt apprehensive. I know I did. This week already has started off to be a difficult one. We're grappling with tough questions and with important choices, but we can do hard things together. Elections are necessary. They make us stronger. Members of our unions get to decide who is trusted with the leadership positions in our Constitution. I expect nothing less than, as members of this strong union, that you all hold and express strong opinions. We debate each other. I know that every candidate running and each supporter of that candidate has the same motivation to make our union stronger for the fight ahead of us every single day. The one common denominator we all have in the thick of a very heated debate is that we all love our union. We built it. One step, one fight, one win at a time. What I also know is that when convention's over at the end of this week, we will have a leadership team that we will all get behind, and we will leave here united. We will absolutely do that. I know everybody's committed to that. We will focus on the needs of our members like we have never done before. We passed some important resolutions yesterday, and I thank you for that. I thank you for all the speakers who took the mics and talked about the 2 resolutions for VIA and for telco jobs. The campaign for good telco jobs to remain in Canada, a fight back on privatization in VIA. This is the important work of our union that needs our focus. We will start the work that convention mandates us to do, and we will do it collectively without reservation. No election, no campaign, no past issue is ever going to put us on a different side of that, because that's where Unifor's power lies, in the resilience of members. And I know that resilience can take us only so far. But we also know that supporting one another is what we do when resilience runs out. And I'll say this, the biggest crisis of this union was the pandemic. We just saw it. We saw Angie and Emily and Ayan talk about it on the video. We heard Tulio. There is nothing that compares to that. That was the biggest crisis of our union. That's when we were the most vulnerable. So many laid off, So many having to work in unsafe conditions, isolated at home. We did our very best to support one another, and we're going to continue to support one another because it is not over. And the aftermath requires us to stay laser focused. Some sectors are just starting to find their way back. Workplaces are looking different, and we need to adapt to these changes at the bargaining table. When we have workers, 90% of them, 90% of a 4,000-member workforce in Bell Clerical that works from home and wants to continue to do that because the pandemic changed the workplace and how they work now and how they do business. Those are the new fights that we're going to be seeing. That's the kind of new language and collective agreements that we need to adapt to. And I often say this, I say this to everybody and I mean it. At some point it clicked to me years ago. If you want to pick a fight with an employer or a government, this is the union you want to be in when you do that. No one can deny that our uniform members don't shine when we have to be facing power head on. We are this way because we need to be. We have some of the toughest employers, some of the toughest government. Look at where you are in Ontario. My God, just blocks up the street in the Pink Palace. 84 right-winged MPPs. I can hardly get myself to even go there anymore. When the government in Ontario capped a wage bill on our members that were in healthcare and education and the public services, what do you think we did? What does Unifor do? What do you think we did when workers in long-term care facilities worked without PPEs, wearing garbage bags during the pandemic, without paid sick days? Oh, we're Unifor, and we know how to answer that. When employers and the Ford government collectively declared war on us, we harnessed all of the power of this union, its resources, its membership, and we pushed back hard. Nothing compares to 168,000 people standing on the ground and saying, no more. We took the fight to the streets. We partnered with other unions and other allies to create stronger and broader worker power. And a more collective voice we took to Queen's Park. And when restrictions didn't allow us to walk next to each other, we drove in convoys. You saw that on the video. Car convoys around Queen's Park with one message: respect us, protect us, pay us. Yes! All of you did that. And then this amazing Regions Council's executive that I get to work with every single day, talented, committed, dedicated trade unionists who every single day only want to do the best for the membership. We worked hard during this time. The ORC ran TV and digital ads to support essential workers and to amplify the challenges in long-term care. We wanted to bring all of this into people's homes. In the middle of the pandemic, that's where people were, and we wanted to take the message right to them. But you don't just put those messages out. Unifor style is different. It is strategic. We message tested. We identified our target audience. We didn't just run an ad on TV. We picked a time slot where our target audience was. We paid attention to who we were speaking to, whose hearts and minds could and needed to change, and who would agree that the treatment of workers in healthcare was a fight that they needed to get behind. Only once we knew all of this did we run the ads, and we ran them for weeks at a time. If you were watching Coronation Street, Sportsnet, or reruns of Everybody Loves Raymond, you would have been bombarded by those messages. And that's where conservatives and progressive intersect. Everybody loves Raymond. It's true. And we opted to feature our own members in these ads. Ayan Holland, you've just seen her on the video earlier. Wonderful sister, young woman, personal support worker from long-term care, in Windsor, local 2458, my buddy's local. She was the face of a PSW sitting in a car, having a moment to think about putting herself in harm's way at the start of a shift, because that was the reality of healthcare workers. That was the reality of PSWs. A message to the government, to community about the incredible pressure that was placed on many PSWs came from Ayan in that 30-second video. There wasn't a sector of this union that wasn't affected by this pandemic. And in the midst of that, each of you played an important part in holding up the economy on your shoulders and carrying our communities through. Ontario's executives wanted to find a way to recognize all of you and the work that you did, and wanted the message to be heard in the community, and that the community see that when they go into a grocery store, it's a Unifor member in there, or when a technician comes into their home to hook up their internet, it's a Unifor member. And then it's a Unifor member making your passenger rail service safe and comfortable. We wanted to connect the dots. Who are these people in the pandemic that are out there while you're home? Well, they're Unifor members. We wanted your neighbors to know how Unifor members supported them. And so we ran an ad recognizing frontline workers in 2020. I found out it was $5,000 for a voiceover actor, so I did it for free. Yep, we find ways to get our message out and to save money and put money up where we need to. And I want to thank the members of Local 44, 100, 414, 302, 87M, and 4304 for participating in those ads and allowing our members to be those actors. And I want to thank the ORC for their support on this initiative. It's always hard to get money out of him. That's why I have to say it. I have to give him recognition for the next time I come forward.
He's got loads of it.
He's got loads of it. This region's executive have, in the last 2 years, found every mechanism to challenge government and support our members. And when the government passed Bill 124 to cap wages on our members, we took out a charter challenge and we mobilized without end. Workers have a right to free collective bargaining, a constitutional right. We must defend that right, especially for healthcare workers, because they already are prevented from striking. The Conservatives wanted to stifle workers' voices in elections. We took out another charter challenge. We won the damn thing, and they struck it down with a notwithstanding clause for the first time in Ontario's history. Shame. Some 84 right-wing Conservative MPPs are not going to strip the rights of 160,000 members in Ontario without a fight, and they damn well aren't going to be able to do it without a minute in between every single fight we put out there. And it wasn't out of the goodness of their heart that Doug Ford's government crookedly gave workers 3 paid sick days during the pandemic. And I say crooked because they didn't make the employers pay. It was paid out of WSIB, money that should be given to going to injured workers, helping workers who actually needed it. At a time when workers needed to stay home if they were sick, this government wouldn't mandate paid sick days. It was really outrageous. They wouldn't relent. And we could see the momentum building in Ontario. It was out there. Community groups, unions, allies, they were all on the government like flies on honey. Each of them writing submissions and bringing together data and research from other countries that would demonstrate that, you know, staying home saves lives. And you'd hear Doug Ford saying, everything's on the table, this big bloody table that everything was piled on that nobody was reading or doing anything with. And themselves, they said, stay home if you're sick. They just weren't going to pay you. They weren't going to make employers pay you. So we simplified the message from the submissions and the research and the data for a government that seems to receive short, simple messages best. Paid sick days now. And we ran an airplane ad. And you saw this on the video. Short and simple. we decided on a flight path that included a time that would get the most coverage. We wanted to include Queen's Park, send a direct message to the government, go right up the 401 where tens of thousands of cars pass by every single day, go right into Etobicoke North in the Premier's own neighborhood. And social media blew up. Within minutes, we had videos and pictures all over Twitter and Instagram, and even the Premier's neighbor posted a video of the banner going right over his home. And our message, Unifor's message, pay people to stay home when they're sick. Pay them. All over Ontario, we hung bridge banners. We put up signs in the entire province. And this is how we send a message from our union to those who aren't paying attention. And that is never done by a handful of people sitting in any office. It's the strength of our numbers. It's the power in our numbers. It's our relenting determination. It's ownership that issues in any sector of this union become your own. And that is the brilliance of our union that I can promise you is not there anywhere else. And I can promise you it's something that we will never lose. 9 years of nurturing that and cultivating that, it is in our DNA and it is here to stay. This is what makes Unifor the best union in Canada. Oh yeah, we are the best. Stand up for that. There is no greater union. And I'll tell you what makes up this union. It's the members, it's the local leadership, it's the staff, it's the resources, it's the brains and the talent of this union that make every fight back campaign get executed with complete precision. I'm sure people are jealous out there. They're probably all over our website all the time. And maybe that's why we have so much, whatever Natalie likes to calculate in terms of how many people are watching. It's other unions trying to see what the hell we're doing. But this is what fighting back with your union looks like. And it's not just a thought or an idea that is tossed. It's a strategy, a carefully crafted plan. Who is the audience? What is the message? And how are we delivering it? How do we amplify the voices of our members? And we have some brilliant minds in this union, some diabolical ones too. But we know how to fight back, not just hard, but smart. And I'd like to say that with the help and unwavering commitment of this Region's Council, we have used all of our collective power and resources to build up Unifor as one of the strongest opposition to Doug Ford's government. When Ford made cuts, we fought back. When he took away the $15 minimum wage, we mandated them to bargain it back at the table. We're one of the most responsive unions in the country. Sometimes we fight, and other times we lobby them to death. We talk them to death. We do it all. In the automotive industry, workers led the provincial government towards finally making major investments, literally pulled them there. Under the threat of plant closures, lost product, a quickly changing industry, auto and IPS workers fought back, fought for good jobs, to secure a future. We know what this industry does in terms of, creating more jobs from one. We know that. We know that Canada needs to lead the next generation of EV production. And we need every level of government to support us in doing that. And I have to say, for so many of us listening and watching, but from afar, the constant announcements of shift cancellations, I can't even imagine what it must have been like for our members in the midst of COVID to constantly get those kinds of announcements. But our members and our leadership in the auto sector fought hard to bring stability. Today, GM Oshawa is back up and running. We heard the brother. Windsor's breaking ground on a battery plant, and we're retooling at Kami to secure product well into the future. Ottawa has always been in the hearts of members in Ontario, of our union. But all of this is possible when you start from fighting for good jobs in your locals, and you make it a priority. And that priority permeates into the community, and you hold those who represent you in your ridings accountable, and you bring them along for the fight, and you bring them along to talk to your members, and you talk about what's needed, and you push them because now they're your representative voice, and when they go where they need to go, they got to remember what they need to do for you. And we're so good at that. When it comes to member engagement, fight back campaigns, mobilization in Ontario, I have to give full credit to the work of this council's executive and the standing committees. Their determination to fulfill the duties they were elected to do is second to none. The endless ways that we do on-the-ground engagement is really quite something now. We've evolved in this aspect in so many ways, from door-to-door discussions, province-wide campaigns, billboards, radio, TV ads, calls, running around, texting people, just texting them during the pandemic. This is your union calling to check up on you. How are you? I don't know who does that out there. We do. We have to, we should, and we will. Because we're a family. You gotta call and see how your family's doing. You gotta fight with them when they need it. You gotta hold them when they need it. Our executive have done an incredible job trying to find ways to connect with our members and to continue to be the biggest support of our members in every way. And I want to recognize them every single day for their efforts. They are absolutely unbelievable. And the one thing I'll say to our locals and our local leadership, and this is so important, and I believe this, because I think this is one of the many reasons why we're seeing workers fight back at the bargaining table as hard as I've ever witnessed. And that is that you have changed the conversation about who is essential to the economy and the community. The pandemic allowed the opportunity, and you took that opportunity and you changed that dialogue by bringing forward powerful narratives of the work of a PSW in long-term care, or a retail worker that made sure that there was food on our table, or a worker in manufacturing who worked in a workplace that overnight retooled from making mattresses to wearing masks and gowns. You changed the conversation. I believe that during the height of the pandemic, this was the reason why we were able to fight our way to pandemic pay. And I believe this narrative that has changed, coupled with profits that many companies have made, incredible profits, and the inflation that we are dealing with, is the reason why so many workers are taking their fight from the bargaining table to the picket lines. We're seeing this over and over again. Our warehouse workers at Local 414, at Metro, unbelievable. Imagine this, year one, 5% wage increase, not good enough, we're gonna strike. That's pretty unbelievable. Like, you have to think about the evolution of where we've come with the power of this union, with what people believe their value is. We never would strike for 5% on year one. Welcome to bargaining in these times. They knew their value, that's right. And that's because of you, the local leadership and the members. They knew their value. They know they made Metro a ton of money during the pandemic. They wanted their wages to recognize this current economic conditions, but they also wanted their share. They struck them, and with the support of their union, they were able to raise the profile of that strike, win back an incredible 8% in year one and 15.8% over the life of the contract. This is amazing. This is the power of a union, the power of collective bargaining, of a rank-and-file structure that can take on anything. I mean, we need to write a book. Someone needs to capture all of this so it doesn't become part of history that we forget. We're bargaining some of the best collective agreements we have ever seen, via rail bargaining. We just saw it. Everyone talked about it, but we were following this so closely in the news and on social media, and it was like we were in the room with the bargaining committee. Concessions were on the table, deadlines were set, they were getting extended again and again and again, clocks ticking, and you did it once again. Our members came out of that bargaining with a collective agreement to be proud of. And this is what we do best. We're taking on some of the biggest beasts out there. VIA, Bell, Great Canadian. And we're doing it strategically, we're doing it smart, we're doing it with a plan while we're engaging our members. A plan is not good if you don't have a ton of people plugged into it. This is how you build an army to take on the beasts and the corporations. We just saw Local 1090 do some pretty outrageous stuff last week. I know Corey's in the hall. I got to give a big shout out to Corey Dalton, Marley, Steve Batchelor, Shane, Chris McDonald, who am I missing? Tristan Good, and everybody else that I missed, I apologize. They struck at 2 casinos. They were bargaining 8, 6 got a deal. They struck at 2 casinos, Pickering and Ajax, and they did that because the workers at the Woodbine Casino just an hour down the way, under the same employer, were paid significantly more. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. There's no way we're accepting this anymore. And we saw it all in this one, 10 days. Matter of 10 days, the local ran picket lines at 2 casinos, a secondary picket at Woodbine Casino, which, you know, we were like, oh my God, Corey, do you know how big Woodbine is? It's massive. You are going to need everybody to shut this down. No, don't worry about it. I got cones this big. I bought 100 of them. I got my people. We're off and ready to go. Let's go. Rank and file structure. You tell us that's what you want to do, and we're going to help you do it. Last Thursday, they signed a tentative. Friday morning, 7 a.m., they started their ratification. And that deal saw between 17 and 25% wage increases in the life of that collective agreement. Give a shout out to that bargaining committee. And this is how we change lives of working people. This is why unions are important. This is why Unifor is the best at it. At the bargaining table, we change lives. On the streets, we change lives. On picket lines, we change lives. In workplaces and ultimately in their lives, in their homes. Bargaining is our #1 tool to directly change workers' lives, and we do it so well. Our bargaining committees are ready, and they're empowered. Our resources and supports from the President's office to research and comms and other departments that specialize in everything we may need. There's second to none when the decision is made to set a deadline for a strike. We have a strike and membership mobilization department, a political action department. They offer unparalleled support, coordination, and planning to the locals to carve out a plan. All you need to do is tell us, and we're ready to go. Just ask our Bell clerical locals. We just lived it. They got all ready for a strike. Maybe next time. Or maybe in a week, I don't know. But we're ready and we're coordinated just in case we're ready to go. I'm incredibly proud of the bargaining committee, of this bargaining unit. You know that this one's close to my heart. I came out of this bargaining unit. I'm a telco worker, Local 6004, which, can I just say, produced some incredible leadership over the years. Derek McLeod, Michelle Ruda, Veronique Breveau, maybe myself. I'm incredibly proud of them. They took a historical vote. In 70 years, we never did that. I started in 1996. And they were able to do that. You know what? In 3 weeks, 4,200 members. We talked to 3,000 of them. We convinced them. We talked to them. We mobilized them. And then we brought them all to Toronto, and we coordinated with bargaining at Bell ACL, who's doing the exact same thing with Bell Canada and the Atlantic. We're trying to leverage worker power. We took on a beast. And I think many of you watched what seemed like, honestly, weekly, sometimes daily exchanges between the union and the employer. While we were waiting to get to our deadline, they did everything they could to derail this. They did everything they could to take away the leverage of our strike vote. And I think we heard that earlier. They signed up they created a registration database, tried to get our members to sign up to be scabs. Fatal move. Fatal move for any employer out there. Do not ever bring scabs. Do not try to convert our members into scabs. This will never be a war that you're going to win. Ever. The local leadership maintained a strong membership. We talked to every member. We fought back against Bell. We took out ULPs. We did all of that. We talked to the media. We said dirt about them. We did everything we had to. And then we just signed a tentative agreement that they're happy about, that they're proud about. And I want to recognize the work of the committees from both Ontario and Quebec, the Atlantic Communications locals that worked with us for that period of time, and our local leadership staff and assistants that did work on the file. This is how we get it done. Not the work of one person, but it's a rank and file structure, and everybody has a place in here somewhere that has talent, that has skills, that has experience, that has knowledge, and that's how you plug it in and get some of the best collective agreements out there. But I think we heard a message from everybody up here. Replacement workers are a real threat to our bargaining power. In April of this year, 160 members in Unifor Local 1859, Lorraine Sinclair, I think you're sitting in the front there, sister. 160 members from that plant, the auto parts plant, THK, went on strike. The employer tried to bring in scabs. Nope, doesn't happen. Turn that bus around. Not in a Unifor workplace. Earlier this month, 220 members represented by Unifor Local 112 at UTIL went on strike. Same thing, employers tried to replace them. 330 workers at Local 40, the Bay, imagine, shame. Yeah, Hudson's Bay Company, logistics in Scarborough, not sure how many more whacks we need to give these folks that there will be no scabs taking our jobs while we fight for a better wage, better working conditions at the table. We are going to protect these jobs and those workplaces where while we strike and while we bargain, and we are not allowing scabs into any of our workplaces. No one but our members are going to resume service in our jobs, period. Now more than ever, and I agree with everybody in this room that has said this before me, we need to be on governments pushing for anti-scab legislation, and until we do, we're enforcing our own anti-scab policy, uniform made, Unifor patrolled. I want to recognize the leadership of John Turner from Local 112, Lorraine Sinclair, Local 1859, and David Amau, Local 40, from their respective locals, along with the staff and assistants who helped to ward off the replacement workers and end the strikes in these locations. It's never easy. I think we can agree that the world around us has changed rapidly. I think you've all contributed to that conversation. In some ways, it's unrecognizable. Media workers saw this change firsthand. In Canada, we have seen some of the worst rates of harassment of media workers anywhere in the world. Sister Jen Morrow just spoke about this at the Women's Caucus yesterday. Heard Gavin talk about this. It's a real threat. Among so many other things, it's because they bring the news that the far right cannot accept into your homes and lives. And when the truth is unpalatable, people attack the messenger. And we know this. Journalism is critically important to healthy democracy, but in order for that to occur, we have to create a work environment that is safe for media workers. And I know many of you know this already. Now that the smartphones create witnesses in every case, we see and hear the worst in people come out. And it's more often than not targeted at those who are simply bringing us this news. And even more frightening is that it's targeted at women and racialized workers. And we know that this is unacceptable. And so it's on all of us to defend this. It's dangerous grounds for our media workers out there right now, on top of being in jobs that are very vulnerable and insecure. And I had a conversation maybe about 3 weeks ago with a young woman, a woman of color from the media sector, who talked about logging into her emails and seeing a barrage of messages that were full of hate, and they're frightening. And I committed to her this year. I guess the ORC can hear about this now. I've already committed to this. I committed to her this year that we at the ORC are going to carve out a chunk of time on the agenda to bring awareness to this really dangerous and critical issue, and we are going to work with the media sector workers on making sure that our members in Ontario at this year's council hear and support media workers. We're going to come out of there with an action plan. We cannot listen to young women telling us that they're frightened when they open their work emails because people are sending them vile, threatening messages. Not doing it. Tomorrow night, we're holding a fundraiser. It's an important event. Local 27 first brought this project that they had been working on for a very long time. They brought this project to the attention of the ORC. And for many of you who attended the ORC this year in March, you would have seen it. It's called the Imagine Build program, and it works closely with the Oneida Nations of the Thames to build accessible homes for families of First Nations communities. Oneida Nation is a flourishing and vibrant Iroquois community that needs support and help in providing safe housing. There are about 500 homes on their territory, and close to 50 of them are either vacant or unsafe, and there's 42 families waiting for housing there. Everyone has a role to play in reconciliation, and we can all agree that housing is a basic human right, and at this convention, this is one step that we can take together. And I'm going to ask you all to participate and be at that fundraiser and give generously and look into your locals and see how you can help with this. $350,000 helps to build a home for a family. We came very close to building one home when we left ORC, and I know we can close that, and I know we can do better here with all of your help. And I'm telling you right now, Deb Twite's in the room. She's going to hunt you guys down. There she is. Pro mic number 3. I'm not sharing it, so I'm not calling it. So as I near the end of my report, I'll say this. It's but a small reflection of all that we have accomplished, this report. For the amount of work that takes place in this union, in my region, 20 minutes will never be enough. And my report is but a sliver of some of the successes that we've just seen since the beginning of this year. And as I write this report, as I was writing the report, I was acutely aware of a narrative that's been circling out there, that we're broken, that our actions, the actions of our former president this past year have jeopardized the reputation of our union, to the degree of jeopardizing future success of this union. That incident happened January 20th. Everybody knows it. We don't need to talk about it again and again. So I've been thinking about this a lot as I was writing this, because this report that I just said, just 20 minutes of this, what we've accomplished this year. We've had the best year to date in organizing new members, apparently at our most vulnerable time. New members who have likely heard the challenges we face, they still thought our union was the best to represent them, and they've joined us. And welcome to WestJet members. This is your union. It's a family. We make mistakes, we do shit, and we move on. We tell each other off, and that's all right. We've had incredible successes, like some of the ones that I just mentioned, just a few in Ontario, and then you heard from the other regional directors. We have seen incredible gains that our members fight for every day across the country. Our members' resolve remains strong, and my best gauge is when new members are joining our union. And it is our best year, and our own members that we talk to every day on the front lines, at the bell tables, at the casino picket line, at the metro picket line, during the elections in Ontario when we went door to door, they are interested in their union. They love their union. They're interested in their union, in the fightbacks we engage in. They want to talk about strategy and how we tackle some of the impacts felt by the members from inflation and the sectors that are struggling to come back from the pandemic. That's what they want to talk about, and that gives me hope, because that's what we're good at, and that needs to be our focus. And I'm looking forward to hearing more from all of you, about your members and what they need the rest of the week. I want to thank you for listening today. I want to thank all of the local leadership for everything that you do every single day, all of our staff, our assistants, coordinators, our National Executive Board. Every single person contributes to the success of this union. We are the ones who have made this union collectively. I want to thank you for standing strong as Unifor members when we needed you to be, at a time where we needed to make sure that our members were behind us. And I know it was hard sometimes, and people had doubt, and that's okay. But we talked it out, and for your desire to build a stronger union than we ever were yesterday, I thank you. And for your ability to tackle the difficult issues but still move towards the future, I thank you. Have a great convention, everyone. Solidarity to all of you.